All right, all right. We are live. And guess what? It is another week, another Saturday that that you will never get again. This is Saturday, April 9th. You'll never get it again. So just want to let you know you got to make today a great day. We're going to go ahead and get this show started, baby. You ready, John?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's roll.
You are listening to The Tipping Point Show with your host, Mr. Just Ask Joe, John Yeah. Right here on WLOU. Streaming live on Facebook and WLOUonline.com. And now, The Tipping Point Show.
All right, man. Yet another week. It's Mr. Just Ask Joe and my brother from another mother. We're coming in with part two, Mr. Esoteric Concepts himself, brother John Ya. How you doing there, family?
Peace, brother. How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm fantastic, man. Still out and about on a little bit of vacation.
That's what's up.
So I'm wrapping it up. Today is our last day. Did a little family thing, came out, enjoyed ourselves, man. Everybody had fun. It's a good time, man. Good time. And vacation, man. I heard some people asking questions about why do you vacate? And I think the biggest thing for me, man, is just the ability to get away, see something different, and kind of reset yourself.
Correct.
It's mental, physical. But I tell you what, man, some indulgences on food. So when I get back, I don't think I'm eating for like 2 days. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I'm not eating for 2 days, bro. I'm just juicing, juicing morning, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I'm just juicing.
Yeah, that's the best way. Sometimes, like I just came off at detox last week. So last week was a full week for me from the detox. And it's a beautiful thing. I would love to write a piece about detoxing and what it does for the body. The body, you put a body in a state where it starts eating itself, right? And so it's eating all the bad cells in your body. It's a perfect way of people if you want to lose weight, but it's also a perfect way to get rid of tumors and cancer cells that are growing in your body. To just do a water fast or a juice fast, what you're really doing is just starving your body to making your body eat itself. And that's an awesome thing. It's an awesome feeling once you get in the middle of it, and then coming out is, it's a little rough, but it's an easy come out. So it's been a very productive week for me since.
That's good, man. That's good. So that's some good nuggets right there. Absolutely. When you start talking about that, man, that is some good nuggets. Well, folks, we got a great show for you today. We're gonna be coming up here shortly. We're gonna have an amazing LP, licensed professional clinical counselor, coming up. So our show today, we're doing part two on men's mental health. Yes. Do Black men need therapy, folks? It was so indulging last week that we had to do it. And John, I don't know if I'm getting some weird messages about whether or not this is live online or what have you. I don't know, but if you can share it, if you find it on our page. I don't have my other computer with me or anything like that, but if you find it on our page or anywhere else, if you can share it, even on the regular profile pages or what have you, share the YouTube link or what have you. But folks, remember, you can go to YouTube and you can tap in at the Tipping Point Morning Show on YouTube or the Tipping Point Show. You can hashtag that. You can just type it in. All good. You'll find us. And you can comment right there on YouTube as well. So just think about that.
Now.
You see it online?
Yep, I got it. I just posted it on my page. So it's online.
Okay.
We live.
Okay. So we are live on Facebook. Okay, good.
We are.
Good. Awesome. That'll work. So, again, Spotify as well. You guys can check us out there. Go listen to some of the podcasts there. Again, The Tipping Point Show. And remember, www.thetippingpointshow.com. Make sure you check that out. That's some good stuff. So when it comes to, everything that we've been doing with the show and everything, man, what's some of the feedback that you've been getting out there?
I personally, from the people that are in my circle, definitely encourage me to continue, that they love the show. Ain't nothing like it. Specifically the topics that we're talking about. And so, basically I'm getting good feedback from that end. And that makes me kind of, as we was discussing a couple of days ago, about investing more into the show to get it out there more and put it out there on other platforms. So, for myself, it's a passion. I feel good about it, and knowing that I got a business to run. And then when I leave from here, I'm headed out of town, but the passion is there for it. I look forward to waking up and actually doing this show with you. So, and when I hear it from other people, it gives me more passion. It makes me want to get up and do it again and find good topics that we can talk about.
It's true, man. It's one of the times where I wake up probably the earliest. A lot of times on a Saturday, I'm up at 5 a.m. sometimes. On a Saturday. This morning I was up at 6, and I know that's probably your normal time, John. So you're probably sitting there in your head like, I'm up. My dad, he was in the military. He was up at 4 a.m. He does that religiously 4 a.m. He's always up. But I tell you, man, it's one of the times I can't agree with you more. I love getting up. Shout out to Dr. No Job. Good mental health is better than money.
Absolutely.
I tell you what, that is a true statement right there.
Yeah,
That's some
absolutely.
Good stuff. But so I didn't see our guest yet in the back room, but I know she's coming.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this conversation because last week we had a great conversation about it. But we promised to make sure we would have a licensed professional in the room as well. And that's what we have for you this week, is having a licensed professional in the room. So it's pretty dope to have someone come in and kind of, give us their professional point of view on this as well. And what I love about it too is it's a sister. So, now we got a sister with her head on her shoulders that's going to give us some great information in line with what we're doing. So I'm excited about that just the same. But,
it's something that definitely need to be discussed. Even our last week's shows showed the levels of this issue here. So many different levels of this. And I just was just informed last week of a young man that served 10 years in prison. He went in his early 20s, came out in his early 30s, and didn't last really a good month out here and committed suicide. So it says a lot. And I probably would think about wanting to do a piece on what should men do when they come out of prison, because we do have a lot of brothers in prison coming out into this world. And this is a whole new world. You've been 10 years incarcerated and you come out to this world, you trying to find yourself. Specifically, if you went in your 20s, you still an adolescent. It's not even, your brain ain't fully developed. Then you come out here into this whole new world 10 years later. It's rough. So I'm glad we're on this subject, because it is important that we kind of talk about men's mental health. And remember, we're talking about mental health, not mental illness. So don't be afraid to come on in and tell us some issues that you are dealing with, whether it's depression, feeling like you're lacking or less. And we were just talking about getting, one of the things I give in my conversation with young men, if I have, would be about getting up early in the morning and starting your day fresh, right? Don't sleep in the day, and getting your rest is the first function of the brain to maintain a good health. exercise, working out, and fill your day up. You know what I'm saying? This is why a lot of people sleep late in the day. They're really suffering from depression in so many cases, unless they work at night, right? So to take advantage of the day, I say get up early, make things happen, and you will see how your day pans out. I love the fact that I can wake up and begin to think about my day or what I want my day to be like, and process it. That's called manifestation in the day, right? To know what you're going to do, where you're going to go, and how you're going to get shit done. So, you know, that's one of the things. And we're going to talk about the pressure that's on men to make that happen these days, of finding a job, making yourself asserted, and feeling like you are maintaining yourself balancedly, because that's a good feeling. It's not a good feeling if you are not maintaining yourself financially. It's not a good feeling for no man, right?
Man,
so we're going to discuss.
No, and let me say this: no real man, because what I'm noticing more of is a lot of these young dudes, they looking for women to lean on, and I'm gonna share this. Uncle Michon kind of in one point, you and Uncle Michon have this definition, or not definition, but this characteristic that kind of differentiates a male from a man, right? And I feel like all of it plays a very real part in understanding the difference. And if a lot of women would play out those things against the situation that they're in, then they would have a little bit more direction, right? So, you know, you talk about a male. I know Uncle Michon, he says, you know, food, shelter, and sex. You know, that's what a male is. That's pretty much sums up just a male. You know, a lot of these young dudes out here, they leaning on these women for food, sex, and shelter. That's it, right? And then you come in and you're like, look at who is his mentor. You know, does he have a man in his life that he's following, things of that nature? So, you know,
not so much whether he has a man in his life he's following, whether or not does he have guidance. To have guidance, you seek therapy
exactly
through people who are older than you. And remember, there are different forms of therapy. There's financial therapy. You may need some talk about how to finance your help. So there's different levels of therapy. But as far as being a man, there are so many different definitions, and that's the confusion on what is a man. Just look in the mirror. You can look at your way you are made, your biologic way you are designed. You can identify you a man. So then we put characters on it and say, well, what is the character of a man out here in this world? And then we take it away from him by saying, well, if you don't take care of your kids, you're not a man. Now you strip him of it, but he's born in this situation that you can never take away from him as being a man. Now his conduct is different than him being physically a man. And that's what we need to understand. He's still a man. I don't care if he's trying to be a woman. That's still a man under that dress, right?
Absolutely. Hey, listen, you know, we getting heated already with this conversation. So I tell you what, let's jump right in right now, and we're going to have some verbiage, some words, some wisdom coming from BitcoinCampus.org. None other folks than Mr. Crypto Kenny himself, Mr. Energized, Mr. Hey, if he couldn't do nothing else, I tell you what, he gonna help you pump some muscles up too. You know what I mean, Mr. Crypto Kenny himself. Hey, brother, how you doing? Give us the Bitcoin word of the day, baby.
Yes, brothers. You know, I appreciate you guys so much. Love your show. Love what you're doing for the community. Wish I could, you know, be more involved, you know, rather than, you know, just this segment.
Busy guy, we understand.
But at the same time, you guys are doing something incredible, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. And as far as just giving some crypto advice to the community for the day, I'm going to just share with you guys what was, you know, kind of like on my mind this morning, and what a lot of people fail at, and it kind of leads to crypto, right? So let's kind of like do that in a sense. You know, a lot of people, they're not understanding how to work, right? There's different ways to work. You can work hard, you can work smart, and you can work the right way. Right? Those are three things, you know, from an ethical standpoint. Obviously, there's other things you can do, you know, that other people choose to do that has a lot more risk, that risk livelihood, right? And freedom. But I'm not speaking about that. Most people fail to understand how to work hard, how to work smart, and how to work right. And the reason is because they don't understand the difference between time and money, right? If you understand the difference between time and money, you can live a better lifestyle. People are not living better lifestyles because they're focused on money too much and they're taking too much time to get money. Just think about that. You know, if you're you want more money, but it's like, if you don't know how to make more money because of education or resources or association, you're going to think to yourself, you have to work harder and work longer to get money.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just a way of thinking. There's some people out there that get money just like that. You know, like it just depends on how valuable that person is. Right. How did they get to that level of value? It took hard work. In society, we're trying to cut away the hard work. Right. So this goes to crypto, but I'm just kind of doing a little opening so people can understand. Yeah. So you could understand why crypto can be a gateway out of that mentality. Most people think of saving money, right? Yeah. Saving money is a concept that wealthy people don't use. Wealthy people invest their money and they live off the interest. That's right. That's just the best way to do it. And here's an example of that. If you have $1,000 and you want to save that $1,000, meaning you want to put it somewhere and you just want it to stay there, and when you come back, you want to see $1,000. That's saving, right? You can't get wealthy that way because you're gonna have to put 100,000 away yourself. You know what I'm saying? And then make more to live, eat, you know, do everything like that. So it makes you think, my goodness, how am I gonna do that? And then in traditional banking systems in society, that $1,000 that you put away, the bank is gonna say, oh, we're gonna give you 3% annually on that. Like, what is that? That's you know what I'm saying? Right. Like, so a year later, you're gonna give me what, $3 or whatever it is? You know what I mean? It's like, what is that gonna do for my strategy? You know what I mean? If I save $1,000, you're gonna give me $3 at the end of the year. Whoa! I might as well not even save. I might as well take that money and do something else with it that provides more value for my life, or it can make me more money. Right? You want your money to work for you. And how does your money work for you? You know, you have linear income, leverage income, and residual income. Those are the only 3 incomes that you can kind of make in a traditional sense, right? It's either linear is trading your time for money. That's what most people do. They go to a job, 8 hours of work will give you this amount of money. You don't get that money tomorrow. You only get it today. They'll pay it to you tomorrow, you know what I'm saying, or at the end of the week or in 2 weeks later. But the work that you did that day only counts that day. Does that make sense? That's linear income.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leverage income is just having something that you can utilize to make more money. So you're just leveraging something, whatever it is. You can be a middleman to sell a house. You just leverage that. There's no specific time that it may necessarily have taken you to sell the house, right? But if you sold the house and you were the middle person and you leveraged that situation, you may have gotten $10,000 for that, $5,000 for that, $3,000 for that, right? So you leverage the situation. You know, you could leverage an opportunity, right? You know, just being in a right place at the right time, whatever the case may be. And then you have residual income. Residual income is being able to do something and continuously get paid for it over and over and over, month after month, year after year. That's why a lot of people like to be musicians. They like to be actors or actresses. You know, even in comedians are able to royalties. You know, comedians are able to make, you know, a program or a show, and you know, you could go watch Eddie Murphy Raw right now, and he'll get paid for it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So the residual aspect is something that most people shy away from because it takes creativity and it takes some sort of, like, most people think that it takes some sort of genius, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that. So it's just an avenue, right? So cryptocurrency, here we go. I'm sorry, I did it there. Here we are. You know what I mean? Cryptocurrency is just an avenue that you can learn It'll take time, it'll take work, it'll take effort, but it'll give you those opportunities to have a residual income, you can leverage a coin or a token or a movement, based on its utility, based on the people behind it. You know what I mean? Those take you away from just the everyday linear 9-to-5 mentality, saving mentality. It's a world that you live in. It's just like exercising. Some people exercise to get ready for the summer. So you eat McDonald's and not exercise and smoke and drink alcohol and do everything the whole year. And then when May comes around,
Yeah.
you're trying to work out twice a day. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to like eat salads and all of that so that you could look good in a bikini or look good with no shirt when you're walking on the beach. And then guess what? The sun goes away. And then you go back to the bad habits and practices that lead to like discomfort. All of that works hand in hand. Your health is your wealth too. If you're someone that's not on top of that habit of eating correct and exercising correct, you're going to develop a depression on yourself that you won't even know how to fix.
My man. What I mean? Hey, so listen, bro, you are dropping it like it's hotter than hot, like nuggets in 5 minutes. How do you come with so many nuggets in 5 minutes, man? Hey, listen, I just want to say thank you so much for jumping in on our 5-minute crypto understanding, brother. You gave us something talking about mentality and everything, bro. So I'm gonna let y'all know just the same. Remember, go to thetippingpointshow.com. You click the menu button. You hit partners, and guess what? You can see a little logo that says Bitcoin Campus and the Tipping Point Show. Click that link, and you're going to learn and understand even more, because this is the genius. This is the genius talent that you're learning from when it comes to Bitcoin Campus. So we appreciate you, brother Crypto Kenny. Awesome. And hey,
and I appreciate you, brothers, and what you guys and the leadership you guys are giving to the community and the words of wisdom. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna be here when you guys get to the top. I'm gonna be right next to you. You know what I mean? So don't try and leave without me. You know what I mean? So just let you know I'm gonna be right here.
Appreciate
it's all good, brother. Appreciate you, fam.
All right, bro.
Yeah.
Peace.
All right, man. That was powerful.
Dope.
Powerful information, man. And what's great is you can just hear his passion. It just exudes from him. It's like if he closed his mouth and then the words would just keep going and his passion would take the rest of the conversation all the way, bro. It's dope, man. I love it. That's new money, folks. We talk about new money. Again, remember, thetippingpointshow.com/partners. You can go ahead and you can click that Bitcoin Campus logo, sign up, and guess what? You will get the opportunity to jump in. It's you got 2 ways that you can join, right? It's $25 a month, right? You can leave at any time, it's all good, but $25 a month for 1 year, right? And then you're paid for life. Or you can pay an upfront $180 and you're a lifetime member right away. With that in mind, folks, we're going to go ahead and jump to commercial, and we'll be right back with our guest of the day.
Habibi Trading Company, home of soap, sticks, and Saya Baba products. Over 400 locations at a store near you. Cincinnati, Ohio, Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky, Southern Indiana, or find yours online at sayababa.com. Again, that's sayababa.com. Habibi Trading Company, where you can find fragrances to incite your senses.
HealthDaddyWow.net. 100% plant-based herbs and supplements. Whether you're in person or online, use the word tipping for 10% off. Remember, feel better, look great, HealthDaddyWow.net. Remember, HealthDaddyWow.net.
All right. As we come on back in, folks, I tell you what, it is yet again time to get it in. We're going to bring our guest up here shortly. Just give us 1 second. All right, folks. We are back once again, and we want to introduce to you a wonderful, amazing young lady, licensed professional clinical counselor, and it is Miss LaKeisha Moore. Am I saying your name, your first name correctly?
No, it's LaQuisha Moore.
Okay, LaQuisha. All right. I that's the reason why I asked, because that Q and that U, sometimes can get you in trouble. But I appreciate you, and welcome to the Tipping Point Morning Show.
Well,
how are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, we are fantastic.
Awesome. Yes.
Good.
So we're going to have this show. Of course, we talked a little bit about where we're going with this conversation, dealing with men's mental health and the process of it. How long have you been working in this field for mental health? And I know you probably a little bit spread it, not just men, correct?
Oh, yes. I work a lot with women and men. So,
okay.
I've been in mental health. I've been a therapist for 5 years. I'm going on 6, I believe. And then I've been, before that though, I was a case manager. So I've been working at a counseling agency for 9 years. So I have extensive history with mental health, treating mental health of basically general population.
Okay. Now, specifically men. You are interested in the health of men. Let's talk about that on the areas because there's so many layers to this. How would you approach this situation with men and their mental health?
And you know what? And before you jump into that, John, to come in before that, why are you so interested in the health of men? What is there something that makes you say, you know what? Men, y'all are worse off than everyone else. I need to really fix y'all.
I won't say that men are worse off. I think that there's just more resistance in actually pursuing mental health treatment. I think because of the stigma associated with mental health, like a lot of times in the Black community has been tied to like maybe schizophrenia or some of the like more intense mental illness. And so a lot of times we're not addressing mental illness until it's very blatant that it has to be addressed. Like having to call U of L or get someone like involuntarily admitted into the hospital for mental health issues. But I would say my interest is because I feel like our men are displaced. Like in society, and then they don't really deal with their emotions. So like not even dealing with the pain of oppression and depression, because sometimes it's not even just oppression, like people are depressed, and they're blaming and attacking society for their position. And sometimes we're not in our proper place because of choices and a lack of psychological fortitude.
Let me ask you this: in that condition that we are in, and I see a lot of it, what is your opinion of how we got here, and what is it we can do to get out of it?
I would say how we got here definitely is tied to, generational trauma.
Okay.
Or not even historical trauma. Getting to so up till even the 1950s, like black and white marriage, black and white people got married at the same rate. I think that black men have not been able to rise the way they needed to in society, to take care of themselves, to be the being that they need to be to their families. And so due to that, there's I think a deterioration of pride that is associated with shame.
Okay.
And so black men don't deal with their shame. And shame doesn't have to be because something has because of what you've done. Sometimes shame is associated with things that have been done to you.
Right.
And not being able to rise above that.
Have you ever had a session with a gentleman that expressed his ability to make it? In other words, sometimes women can make a man feel less than a man. And that can become an issue that a man could be struggling with, because we define men in so many different ways. Have you ever sat down with a man expressing his views of what women think of him?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the way black men have been treated by black women definitely plays a role in the deterioration of their mental health. If you are in situations in which you don't feel good enough, or you don't feel like you have a sense of self-worth that would definitely affect you over time. And some of that don't even start with the women that they choose. Sometimes it starts with the women who raised them.
It's interesting when you talk about that, because there's been this thing, especially in our community, about the strong black woman, right? And so what it seems that has happened through the years is, and maybe it's a matter of men in general being beat down in our society, or dumbed down in our society, but the women in some cases pick up the slack where there is no man. And so then when she does get into a relationship with a man that is trying to be, what he understands as a good quality, wholesome man in that relationship, then in a sense, it's almost as if he's stunted in that, because she's still she's still in the midst of picking up that slack. She's got that strong woman, and so mentality. So it's now you got two heads butting against each other, because I know you've come across those type of conversations and such like that. How does a man play that out? Since we brought up the idea of relationships, then how does a man work that out in that situation? How does he get to be a man again?
Right. I think knowing that he is a man regardless, that being a man is not defined by what a woman says you should be as a man. But also a lot of times I think that there's, we say strong black women, but sometimes that's also, to me, like women who have toxic masculine traits. Those,
TMT.
So, and I have them, I have some too. So I know what they look like, as far as, but also understanding that sometimes that's due to control. Like a woman wants to have something in her control to make sure that things go a certain way, when you've been with or around men who don't make good decisions, it's kind of hard to leave decision making up to them. You know, especially if you think that my decision or my choice for what needs to happen here, maybe that I might be more educated about it, or I might know a little bit. And so instead of us relying on strengths like of each other and being interdependent in that way, we kind of like we pick up dominance over submission, you know, or, you know, someone has to be submissive and someone has to be dominant. When I think you can, I don't even know if it's a word, but I feel like you can be intersubmissive. Like you can both like submit to what needs to happen. You know what I mean? And make
go ahead, give it to her, John, because I know what you're thinking.
What are you gonna say?
Well, I like to use the word alignment. You know, in alignment, you got balance of female energy and male energy, and there's a balance in between. And so you got the masculine, and you got the feminine. However, I don't like the word submissive. I like the word alignment because that works better. That means we're both in the share of something to make something happen. What I can't bring to the table, she brings to the table, you know. But let me ask you this. You mentioned something about in the 60s, and we talked about this in statistics where back then you had a lot of marriages. People were getting married. You had fathers in the home. When I grew up in the 60s. So I know all the neighbors had the friends that I grew up with. They had dads all up and down the block, you know. And now we're living in a society where 80% of the household now are ran by women. Is that play a particular role in men not having that father figure and that woman's raising him?
Of course, because there's, you know, any man who doesn't have his father is going to have some abandonment issues. And abandonment issues, they play out in your relationships, even women that don't have fathers. I mean, the father's such a vital role in a child's life that when you don't have a father, you're not giving an example of what a man should be as a man, to operate as a man within your relationships or within your friendships or whatever in society. And then if you've not had a father as a woman, you don't know what to look for in a man, you know? So you have a lot of people, a lot of Black people, we definitely have a lot of abandonment issues due to not having fathers in the home. And what I was getting to when I talked about the, you know, up to the 60s or through the 50s, it looked the same and then it started to change. I think what began to happen is the implementation of the welfare system.
Okay.
Because with that came Black women's reliance more on the government than the men. And that's because the men were not given the opportunities that they needed to be men. So there was actually, I mean, it was actually designed to degrade and discount the Black men.
So if a Black man, if you was counseling a man that talked about not having a father, how do he fix that? How do he fix the fact that he grew up without a father and kind of confused on what a man really looks like from that point of view? How does he get that back? Where does he go? What does he do?
So if I were dealing with a man who didn't have a father, I would ask him to write down, what does he believe what traits or characteristics he believes the ideal father has.
Okay.
You know, and then how does that align with who he is as a man? So then you can see where the deficits lie. Like, what do I need to work on? You know, if I know what I think a man should be or what I would have wanted to have as a father, then how do I become that for myself and for my children? You know, instead of like falling into the pattern of being, you know, absent. Whether that's emotionally, because some guys are in their kids' lives like they know they kids, but they're still absent emotionally or spiritually or mentally, you know, or physically. They may know who they are, but they don't come around. Or they may come around, but they don't really interact with their kids the way they need to. Some men think all they have to do is go to work and provide for their kids, but they don't build relationship.
So since we're on this subject of fathers and kids, do you ever come across conversation of men coming into relationships with a woman where she already has a child? Now, this is a man who is innate in his nature as a father himself with his own kids, and just has that fatherly mindset. So sometimes when you get a strong woman with a child and a man who's a father to his own children, it's difficult for them to come together and that man be able to be a father in that new relationship, or sometimes it can be where he may have to dumb down the thing that is natural within him as far as being a father. How does that work?
That sounds like a lot of pressure, don't it?
Woo!
Well,
They made a song about it. Pressure.
It is a lot of pressure, but I think that you have to, in any relationship, kids or no kids, you have to look at your value systems. Like you say, being in alignment, do your value systems on parenting align? How do you view what you should be coming into a situation, what she thinks you should be in her situation, so when you talk about like being a father, is that going to be related to discipline? Is that going to be related to how you provide for those children that aren't yours? Like, I see a lot of times men may come into a woman's situation, but they may not take ownership of her situation. They pick and choose like what they want to be a part of or what they want to be responsible for, especially if there's no marriage, so.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think
in my mind, I don't think that that's a good thing. I think that if you coming in, then you come in both feet all in, or you can't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out. It doesn't make sense to me. That's not true alignment.
Right. It's not, but I think it serves men sometimes to be able to do that. So now I don't have to give as much of my money. I don't have to do as much or whatever, or
give as much of my time, give as much of that energy towards this. So then in my thought process, how can the relationship truly grow if you're not all the way in?
It doesn't grow completely. It can't, because and I know you said you don't like the word submission, but I like the word submission because I don't see it as a weakness. I don't see it as a weak thing to be submissive, to surrender to a situation or to surrender to someone and say, I'm letting all my guards down and I'm completely involved right here.
And I guess that is dependent upon whether or not you can look at that man, that woman can look at that man and see some things of how they can move forward in life. If a woman looks at a man and don't see nothing, all he's looking at is sex, food, and shelter, then, of course, there should never be any submission to her. But if she can look at that man and see that he's trying to push her, pull her, grow her, and them both together, then I think at that point, there is a certain level of submission, if you want to use that word, or a level of saying, yes, I can truly be in alignment with this man.
Mm-hmm. But I think that is based on her value system, and if he meets the criteria of what she thinks is an ideal man, and sometimes sometimes women are very idealistic about what they want in a man,
and when you say idealistic, that almost sounds like you're pulling in society's definition as well when you say idealistic.
Yeah, I would say not even just societies, but even like this fairy tale. We've grown up, listening to fairy tales, Cinderella, women being rescued, by
white savior, the white savior all day long, boy.
Who don't want to be saved? Who don't want to like have someone come in and completely just make their life easier, and but a lot of times people come with their own issues, so. you know, even though you may have an idea of what this man should be like, that doesn't negate the reality of what else he might come with.
In your studies or in your field, do you recognize television, music playing a role in the mental health of men?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got to think about, even I'm 39 years old. You got to think about we are the beginning of rap. We was the beginning of crack, the beginning of mass incarceration. Like, everything has happened, you know, even in the last 4 decades. There has been a lot of changes to our value system based on the things that we listen to, based on the things that we watch. We've gotten desensitized, you know, to violence. We've gotten desensitized to even just, I wouldn't even say desensitized to even to a hypersexuality. You know, it's like a lot of things that, you know, men are still kind of in more breeder mode than they are in
Instagram. You talk about hypersexuality, Instagram. You know, I mean, yeah, it's like it. I don't know if it's soft porn anymore or if it's just porn, depending upon, you know, your timeline. But here's a comment from the online social media. Most women who are in their masculine side are in a state of survival mode. Understandable to protect oneself. However, that is something many don't understand when they are in that state.
Why they are in that state?
Or why they are in it. Many don't understand why they're in that state. So, you know, I get that. And I think that is something, you know, because I mean, relationships to me are like the craziest thing in the world anyway, right? Because you take two people that were raised in a lot of cases totally different, different backgrounds. They got different things going on in their lives sometimes, right? And then they come together and then, you know, down the road they get married, move in, and they try to do all this stuff, you know, under one roof or whatever, right? So it's a crazy dynamic in and of itself, totally in opposition of the wild, right? You know, and sometimes we try to relate, you know, humans and relationships to nature, but you're talking instinct versus free will. So it's a big difference. But, you know, when you look at this comment here and you talk about, and I guess that kind of goes to what I was speaking about a little bit earlier, where there's this masculine, this strong woman syndrome. Nowadays, you see this movement where women are saying, I don't want to be the strong woman anymore. I'm tired of that, because then what happens is it makes a man not want to help me.
Well, you know, it first started out with, I don't need a man. Now we're at, I'm too strong. I don't want to be strong no more. So that's we switch from I don't need a man to what the hell, I don't want to be strong no more.
You know what? Here's the thing. You know what it makes me think of? There's always this I don't know if you want to call it joke about how women can't make up their mind. So the fact that we switch like this just makes me think that society is being ran by women.
I think a lot of women take pride in being independent as a defense mechanism, because really to be, I don't want to. A lot of times, not having a man is also a reflection of poor choices. You know, like not having a man, but not having a partner who is there with you and your children, who is making sure, you know, like that alignment is there. And it can be poor choices on both ends, but I think that is women, like, I'm to be independent, and even when you think about, you know, Beyonce, like, and people who have promoted independence, like, but they're in relationships, you know.
Exactly.
And, you know, like, you know, even the Megan Thee Stallions of the world are like in relationships why they telling us to have hot girl summers, you know?
But let me ask this question. Is there something wrong with a woman having her independence? Is there something wrong with that? And I want to get into that discussion about the masculinity of the masculine side of women. But is there something wrong with a woman having her financial independence?
I'm financially independent, so I totally don't have a problem with a woman having her independence.
Absolutely.
That is needed, because it also, even if you're in a relationship, a woman having financial independence and a man having financial independence together is, wealth building. So
Right.
there's nothing wrong with her being financially independent. I think it's when you are mentally and emotionally so independent that you can't be open to interdependence.
Well, there are some men that are intimidated. Now, I don't want to make a blanket statement, but there are men who are intimidated by independent women that can say, I pack my bags, I'm out of here, and can do it, right? And ain't got to be stuck financially under someone.
But do you know why he can say, I pack my bags and I'm out of here? Because it's not his castle.
No, her. She can say,
her. Oh,
because she's financially independent. She ain't got to put up with it. A lot of women stay in abusive relationship because financially, or in those cases, but a woman who's got her own, she don't have to remain in an abusive relationship based upon what he takes care of me. And that's why a lot of men are intimidated by women who can bring in the bread.
Well, yeah, because he's required to be a different type of person.
Yeah.
Because you can't treat nobody any kind of way when they independent. And like you said, she can walk, she can say, I'm out of here. But a lot of times when you see even very independent women, a lot of time they end up with codependent men.
But John,
go ahead. What you codependent men?
Go ahead.
Like even financially, I was listening to you guys last show and talking about how men, kind of use women for shelter, and like a lot of times, and I won't even say it's for shelter, sex, mostly it's for stability, because the Black man has been like historically unstable in our society. He doesn't have his own a lot of the times. He moves from his mama's house into a woman's house.
Wow.
Without getting his own situation together. And that's why Black men do need mental health treatment, because what do you get when you you learn psychological fortitude, you learn to goal set, to see what you need in your life to be the man you want to be, because
is that ultimately based upon the idea that they just haven't seen that? Because we're talking about, as of right now in America, in our community, over 70% of children born today in our community in America are born into fatherless households. Whereas when we're talking about back in the 50s, 40s, 60s, that was like 5% as a whole in America. And they say once you hit 40%, you've reached a tipping point, right? And like society can't go back. And we're at 70. And when you look up in celebrity news every day, some celebrities are getting together, having kids, and they're not married. So it becomes normalcy, and we share that gossip, and that becomes a normal thing in our minds. So it's almost like what you're saying. You're dictating men who didn't have guidance, as John speaks about, to know those things about what they should and shouldn't do, and how they, I can admit being caught up in our culture growing up. I had that example as a father, but being caught up in our culture growing up, I didn't. I can look back and I should be like a gazillionaire right now, right? Because but our culture told us to take the money and show it off. So at young ages, my ambition was the same, but at young ages, I was so ambitious, get out there and make the money and then show it off, and so even though that wasn't what I seen from my father, right? But then as I got older, I had my father and what I've seen from my father to lean on, and as my mind is better, then I had that direction to actually go in. But you're talking more so about men growing up without fathers. So this thing with not having a father is you're talking about pillars of society that are missing.
Right, and it's not even just a father, even having toxic mothers, that sometimes it's not even who was absent, but who was there, and how they're being raised. But also the trauma, that Black men experience in society is a big issue too. And those lead to negative beliefs about self, And so if you don't feel like you can be what you want to be, then you'll be anything that you can be.
Let me go here with about men who are gay men. Is that something that will fall up under mental health? Men who whether men growing up and saying, hey, I've been liking men since I can remember. Some men say they were born gay, and some men have been molested and end up falling into there. Does that still work somewhere because here's the thing. We're dealing with what is called an identity crisis. First of all, we don't know if we're Black, Moor, Muslim, Christians, Africans, whatever. We are still trying to define ourselves, right? And then here we are now trying to define ourselves as far as man's concerned. I'm a man, I'm a woman. Now you got public schools can say, hey, you're not a boy, you're a girl. You can choose anything you want to choose. Aren't we talking about still mental health of an individual who is a man biologically, but yet he wants to dress and be like a woman? Is that mental health issues that you would consider a mental health issue, or is that normal?
Are you trying to get me in a fight today?
That's the first thing I thought of when you started saying that.
Okay, because I want to respect, the LGBTQ community. But
this is not a knock at all. Let's just blanket statement that it's not a knock.
No, but this is talking about mental health.
I think it's a real conversation.
Yes, no doubt.
Exactly.
I would like there in the DSM. It used to be defined as a mental health condition. That I want to say that changed in like the 70s, maybe.
Close to the 80s.
But I think that anybody having an identity crisis is an issue. Like if I'm in my body, my female body, and I feel like a man, I feel like I don't belong in this body, or like that is a mental health issue. And I think that most people who are gay have, most of them have experienced some type of sexual trauma. That is not all, but yes, that. So I do feel like if people even explored their sexuality and how they came to that, they would find that there are some things that happened in their life that led them in that direction. I don't want to, like I said, some people are born with these feelings that they've never, they feel like they were born that way. They feel like they've never ever liked the opposite sex. But there's also people who are attracted to children. They ain't never been attracted to adults. You know what I mean? But we see that as definitely a problem, or a mental health issue. So it's such a touchy subject. I'm a twin. My twin sister's gay, so I've been in a very enmeshed in the LGBT community. But I definitely see, even when you look at it, and I can send this to y'all later, there's an article that talks about toxic masculinity in like Black stud females. And when I look at that, I also see the opposite for men too, as far as having toxic feminine traits, or trying to be a woman, but it's like being a woman that's the whole all the attitude, the poor attitude, all the girl boo stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a certain, to me, a toxicity with even, how men define themselves as women, even when they're gay. And even if you look in the gay community at women, there's still a patriarchal setup.
So
The feminine girl is with the stud female.
correct.
And when that is different, when there's two studs together, two femmes together, that is looked upon as kind of like being gay within being gay. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of like mental stuff that we don't think about, our psychological issues related to all of it, But I think that people get so sensitive about it. And why? Because if we're doing something that we want to be doing, any addressing it on a real level might be a threat to us not, if I feel like I'm doing whatever I want to do and it's right, I might not want to address that on a real level if I want to continue like doing whatever I'm doing, So I know that it can be a mental health issue. I won't say that, everyone that is, gay is like mentally ill or anything like that. But I do think that mental health issues a lot of times are tied to people's sexual identity.
Addressing it. Yep. Address. That's the opportune word. So when we talk about that, because and this is a touchy subject, and I look at people like Dave Chappelle and whatnot that have made comments, and then next thing you know, they get railroaded. So fortunately we're we are dope, but we're not big enough yet to get railroaded. So I'm not too worried about that. But with that in mind, is it an American society thing? Because here's the thing, like Dave Chappelle said something one time. He said, other countries will always beat us. Like he said, China will always beat us. Why? Because everybody in China is Chinese. So he's saying basically they understand nationality and backing their country and such like that. And he said everybody in America is racist, So with that in mind, in American society, it's almost like you can be what you want, right? But then what's happening is we're crumbling, in a sense. The value system, the fabric of society is crumbling from within, right? And whereas other countries, Russia wouldn't have. Russia, Putin did what he did because he was like, I feel it. Or okay, I'll say this. This is what some would say, that Putin did what he did because he feels that now we got a punk government system, right? So he's like, all right, I'm gonna make this move now because it's just some sissies over there. But when you look at America, America is a bit of everything. One big melting pot. People come from other countries and do things here that they would never do in their country, right? Because it would be frowned upon, stoned upon, and all type of other things upon. So I feel like our society has created this thing where it's like, yeah, be whatever you want. But then now things are, in a sense, kind of coming back to bite us. Now I feel like everybody in America needs mental health counseling.
Absolutely. It should be as common as going to your primary care physician. Like, seriously. I would say in other countries, I would think that the rate of these issues would probably be just as high. It's just as hidden. It's more hidden, that there are gay people or different people that have certain value systems or practices in all countries. But here it's not as hidden because there have been laws put in place. Law changes. That's what changes things, is law. So there's been laws put in place to protect people from being discriminated against. And honestly, we've operated in that free will or do you type of mentality or state. And if you're not letting somebody do them, then you kind of limiting their free will. But I do think that we have to start to think about order. That some things have to do with order. That certain things are supposed to happen in a certain way to have certain outcomes. And that's what you see for us as Black people that break down in the family system. You got the men that's in prison, the men that are gay, the men that are, impoverished or don't have, a lot to offer. Well, I don't even say a lot to offer because I don't put a lot to offer with a monetary value.
Okay.
But I think that we have to start to see men outside of what they bring to the table monetarily, because I think, worrying about a man's pockets is really a broke woman's mentality.
Whoa.
Now you are placing a monetary value on his work as a person instead of, other things that a man can bring to the table. And that doesn't mean I want to be with a man who doesn't have financial stability. Okay.
That's
exactly.
But I do feel like there's like a pseudo prostitutional mindset about,
I like that.
about, he need to have this, that, and the third, but they're not thinking about his spirituality. They're not thinking about his mentality or none of the other things that matter, sometimes outside of that. And that's how you
or even talking about what he needs to bring to the table when they don't have it themselves.
Right.
So go ahead, John.
Or a situation, it was when you was talking, I was thinking about a situation where I know men where the woman denied him seeing his child because he missed his child support payment. And here he was involved with his child, but because he missed the payment, she placed money on his value and denied him to seeing his child because he couldn't pay child support.
Right. I think that's wrong. I think that money should never be tied to parental access. That access to a child, because that destroyed that's the business portion of the relationship. Like what me and my kid's father have to, how we have to deal with money don't have nothing to do with how he needs to be present for his child. So
good point.
That is where we're going wrong too. Like even the child the child support system, I know that it is warranted and needed in a lot of situations sometimes, because to me it is socially criminal not to take care of your kids.
Right.
Right. Absolutely.
To feel like there should be no repercussions or consequences for that is crazy to me. Yes. So some of the ways in which men operate with their children, women would have CPS cases. And I think that the child support system should be revamped to include like CPS cases for men. Like give him resources, figure out why he can't do what he needs to do, like you would a woman if she weren't taking care of her kids. Give these men case managers. Help him find a job or help him find financial stability. But
because right now it's simply the men's. Anything you got going on does not matter in today's child support system. But real quick, I want to read a couple comments right from our online community. And John, I know we doing a part 3 as well. And LaQuisha, I definitely want to have you there, even if as we may have another mental health expert. I want to get you there as well. And I know personally, John, I'm out of town and I got to check out here soon. So, but let me read some of these questions here or some of these comments. So question for LaQuisha: what advice have you for women involved with men who grew up without fathers? How do we as women nurture that mental inadequacy of his abandonment issues with sensitivity? And let's tie. So we're tying that back into men's mental health. What would you answer to that question there?
So, I would say growing up or dealing with men who didn't have fathers, I think communication is what any relationship should have. So communicating to him what your expectation is for him being in your situation and compromising on what needs to happen for you to have what you need. I think that women have a problem with accepting less with men and then trying to bully them into being who they want them to be, you know, instead of making men rise to the occasion to be in their situation. It's like they accept inadequacy and then try to bully that man into being who they want them to be. So to me, it would
when you say rise to the occasion, making a man rise to the occasion, what are you saying? Is there a certain level of in a sense, right? You give a dog a treat for doing good things. You discipline them for not doing good things, right? So in making a man rise to the occasion, has society created a situation to where now too much giving away the milk?
That's what's happening.
And so therefore men don't rise to the occasion because they can get everything they need without having to.
Inadequate. Yeah. That is true. I think that, and that falls on women. Like in that situation, I feel like with men, you know, what your expectations of a man, just like a woman, like what your expectations of a woman are. Like some men, they get in relationships and like, well, my mama did things like this or whatever, you know, and trying to almost shame a person into having the same value system as you, you know, instead of getting with somebody who is equally yoked with you, who shares your same value system. You know?
Okay, and another comment here, and a lot of the times now, younger women and both men have babies as a trophy, just to say they had a child, but lack the mentality to have a family structure, nor are interested in creating one. Now, isn't that something that somebody should have figured out before the act of creating a baby was ever in place? Like, shouldn't that have been and maybe that's part of the issue, is we're not having those conversations before the fact?
Right. That's what I'm saying. We're not, and I've been guilty of it, you know. I have children with men I'm not with, you know, because I think also we have been conditioned to, like, if things go wrong or when we have our own traumas, when things feel hard, you know, it's easier to run than it is to try to work out what issues come up, you know. But yeah, it's bad. It's poor decision making, period. You know, one of the most important decisions you'll ever make is who you choose to have kids with.
It's interesting. And we on that subject about, you know, the kid thing, and this is very interesting. And I think I take this page from Dr. Pookrum when we're talking about the choices that we make. You know, are we at a point to where we're oversexed and we're having sex, but we're not talking about building families? And so now that goes back when we talked about the woman. How does she know what a man is and what the value, if she didn't have a father in her life to measure that up to, number one? And so I like to say it's vice versa. So, you know, there's a twofold question here. And let me give you an example. And I'm glad you mentioned about toxic women. Some women are toxic. And this is interesting. This goes, like I said, levels. When a child is in the womb at the third trimester, that is when the brain begins to download information. The first thing the brain downloads is the mother's voice, coupled with, secondly, her feelings behind the voice. So let me give you an example. Let's say, for instance, the mother's called a bitch or a whore by somebody she loves. Of course, it's going to make her feel bad. The child in the womb hears the same sound, bitch or whore, but it doesn't know what it means. But now, because mama felt bad, it's connect the feeling with that word. So now the child comes into this world with a default program on that word and hear that word and don't even know why it feels bad. Secondly, and most important, while the child is in the womb, if the mother has a nasty or a bad attitude towards men, that relates right into the wound of that, into that child, right? The memory, the thoughts, the feelings. If she has mentality that where she hate men, I don't like men, I don't want a man around, and yet she has a boy in her womb, in her belly coming out. Well, guess what? That boy can grow up not wanting to be a man. Thirdly, and most important, a boy growing up with a mother who have men running in and out the house. I've heard grown men say they won't choose a black woman or a woman like their mother because they seen their mother behave like a whore. And so that lack of trust there, and maybe they either choose a white woman and or don't choose a woman at all and choose a man because of this toxic female. Now, with that said, the father wasn't present. Now, with that said, also, if the mother has that attitude, probably she didn't have a father. So now we have this continuous cycle of having kids, no fathers there. I grew up, if someone grew up and didn't have a father, that person grows up, have sex with the woman, no connection. And a page out of Dr. Pookam's book talked about oxytocin, where women fall in love 10 times faster than men because of that hormone, that chemical in the brain. Well, make a woman fall in love, and it takes a while for the man to create that chemical bond with her. And so if he doesn't create it, it's easy for him to walk away from him and a child because he didn't create the bond. That same bond between the mother and the child is the same bond that she creates with that man, right? And so now that becomes a problem. According to her, she said women should wait before she have sex with him and allow him to see if he creates that bond with her. Because if she gives it away too soon and he hasn't created that chemical bond, he walks away from her just like that. And this is what we see in society today. Men will walk away as though there's no connection and not even caring whether or not is she pregnant, does she have a baby, or who's the child, or no concern, because there's no connection with the chemical balance in that man's brain.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes it's a lack of connection with self. That to be able to emotionally disconnect from something that even biologically belongs to you is a psychological issue.
Correct.
You know what I mean? To be able to know that you have a child that is left unprotected by you in society, and you don't know what's going on with that child, how they're eating, what they do day to day. Like we have a society full of weekend daddies. Even the daddies that are involved are weekend daddies. The woman might have the kids 2 weeks straight and get 1 weekend off, and the man has them for 2 days, and then they're not actively involved in their day-to-day activities. And I don't really agree with that, because I feel like you can, if you're in the same town, you know what I mean? Like some days he need to pick his child up from school or daycare or whatever, like throughout the week. Like it should not be where the woman is constantly having to bear the physical brunt of the work all the time, which does give her probably negative feelings toward men if she feels like men have left her with a lot of, baggage or like a lot of responsibility that is supposed to be shared.
I find those cases where the dad has weekends. It sounds like a court order, like the court arranged that. The court had to come in and tell you how you should parent this child. Okay, you get 5 days, you get 2 days. He gets weekends no matter what. He gets the weekends, and sometimes it's every other weekend. And you get every other weekend, and so they're going back and forth. But that's a court issue. It's not like the two people had enough sense as an adults to make their own rules. They had to bring the court in and let a judge make that decision.
Yeah, I think sometimes even when people are making a decision on how arrangements go, it kind of ends up like that too.
Yeah.
And
John, you said it right with two people having an inability to sit down and come together and have enough sense to make these decisions themselves. Because I read something here in Kentucky, and I read some fine print, and I've been trying to find it, but I read some fine print that said something along the lines of the children, when you are in the child support system, the children in some way, shape, or form are governed by the state. And I read that in some fine print, and I've been trying to find it ever since. I don't remember what it was that I read, but it was something that I read having to do with the Kentucky child support system. But this leads us to another comment. It's funny that Omniatic made this comment, because I was literally going to ask you a question along these lines. But he says, I'm convinced that the Black community hates Black fathers. Now, again, as we're wrapping up here soon, because we are doing a part 3, I had a gentleman say to me, he said, why should we as Black men marry Black women? He says, they don't respect us past our penis action, right? He says that they love us in the bed, but that's about it. He said, outside of that, they do not respect Black men. Now, we can talk about society's woes and what got us here, but in your counseling sessions today, in this day and age, what would be your summarized thought of Black women and their respect towards Black men?
I think that a lot of times Black women haven't been as respectful of Black men because they have been looked at their penis and their pockets, right? But you also have to look at some men are only bringing penis to the table and they want to be respected for more. You know what I mean? If you only bringing that, it's only what you coming with, but then you feel like you need to be respect because I'm a man, like, well, that's a little difficult, you know, because there's other things that a person needs outside of sex, you know. So I think when you look at someone not respecting you in the way that you want to be respected, sometimes you have to look at yourself and think, am I being respectable?
Great point, because what I heard was a blanket statement against all Black women. And as I'm listening to it, I'm like, no, that's not the Black women that I know. However, I would say if that's what you vibrate into your space, then that's what you see, because you're vibrating that hate already, that Black women, all Black women. So when people make those blanket statements, I can only see it starts with the self. Because a blanket statement, that doesn't even make sense to put all Black women in one boat and say all Black women looks at the penis first. No, that ain't true.
No, that sometimes that they do want more. They are desiring more, but maybe don't know how to get it because they have their own mental issues or their own deficits, you know, when it comes to respect for self.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think everybody's looking at each other when we need to be going inward.
Wow. Yes, that's correct.
Absolutely. And I think that's the first thing is, and what you're talking about is accountability. You know, look in the mirror, look at yourself first. You know, in partnership in a business that I have, my partner, when it comes to issues with any of our team members that we work with, then the first thing we look at is us and how we could have done something different or better, as opposed to just pointing the finger and saying it's them, it's them, it's them. You know, could we have been better in that situation? So, you know, as we you know, come to a close, I want to read another comment here. Omniatic says, ours is the community that celebrates single mothers, all the single ladies, on Father's Day, more than actual fathers. The next generation has no incentive in being stepping into the father role as a result. And at the end of the day, the Black community just needs to stop having sex with those you're not emotionally connected to, and just leave people be. And I think even with that comment there, when you talk about stop having sex with those you're not emotionally connected to, you can be emotionally connected to somebody, have sex with them, have a baby, and then all of a sudden all hell breaks loose, and then y'all, you know, are apart and disconnected. So, you know, I think it goes deeper than even that emotional connection. It's hey, like you said, our values aligned and all of that good stuff. Those are all things that play a part. And I do apologize for anyone out there, because unfortunately I'm only getting the YouTube comments on my end. For some reason, I'm not getting other comments, Facebook comments, and things of that nature. So I do apologize, but I tell you what, we will go back through this thread and we will look through at some of the comments online, and we'll get Miss LaQuisha involved in some of that commentary that is missed as of right now. For some reason, it's not coming through. I'm just getting the YouTube stuff, so I apologize. But with that in mind, give us 5 minutes here. Give us 3 things that a man can do right now, or 3 of the top things that a man should do when it comes to working on their mental health.
I would say, starting with understanding your value system. Are you aligning with your value system? Because I think that creates a lot of mental confusion for people. And I think a man should look at things where he has shame, because shame to me is it definitely makes people operate in a certain manner. So whether that's blaming and attacking others or withdrawing from situations, I think that men have to look at shame, and address whatever those issues are that you have with women, with yourself. I think definitely trying to go to therapy if you definitely feel like you have some issues. Understanding depression looks different in men than it does in women sometimes.
Yes, it does.
That looks more like anger and irritability, So I would say, tapping into yourself spiritually, pursuing mental health treatment, and then what else? And then also seeing what you need to be productive, because a lot of men's self-worth is tied to how much they can offer, or the work that they do.
Facts.
So I think that finding ways to increase the productivity based on your actual gifts and talents, and not on a job. Like a lot of times people get in these unhappy positions that they make money, but they hate it. So really trying to figure out, what do you care about, to do for a living that brings you fulfillment and brings you income, economic empowerment.
Okay.
And I think that right there is definitely something for everyone. That's a everyone thing. Mm-hmm. Finding your purpose, finding your passions, focusing on those things. That's a everyone thing in and of itself. But I definitely see when you start talking about a man, I think real men out here want to work and provide. That's kind of something that's just instilled within them. So if a man can't work and provide, then in a sense, for most men, it's like, well, what am I to do? That's like what I am. That's what I do.
That also produces shame. That also makes you feel shame.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. And then they overcompensate.
Behaviors. Now I got to compensate with women or drugs or party, and whatever it is. I have to feed that
shame.
Yeah.
They're overcompensating, small man syndrome, all that type of stuff, man. So, John, man, if you could throw in something as we dip out here, man, and then I'll wrap up with some commercials and direction of websites to go to. But first, before that, John, LaQuisha, can you please give people whatever information that you would like to give as to how they can get in touch with you if they, want to get closer to having mental health conversations with you?
Well, you can email me at laquisha.moore@gmail.com. That's LAQUISHA.Moore, MOORE@gmail.com. I am on Facebook at Denise Moore. And then on Instagram, I think my Instagram is @proverbial heart. So, but I'm open to these conversations because they're much needed. We got to
absolutely. John, go ahead and throw something at us, brother, as we dip out of here.
Well, again, on the men's side, for men, I've always said, and of course, I've did prison work and going back to the prison system and giving lectures and things on what men should do when they come out here in the streets. And it's really this is universal. Every man, every person, by the way, wants to feel belonged, wants to feel important. Everyone asks us the question as they're coming up, why am I here? What is my purpose? If you haven't asked those questions in your life, then there's a mental problem. Everyone's in search for themselves. And I would have to say, for you, when men are young, and the older they get, if they're living with their mother, the older that they get after they're 18, if they're not asserting themselves, planning on school, college, and they don't have any dreams, they actually going through depression, but you don't see it, right? Mm-hmm. Because young boys don't show their depression, nor do young boys cry, because according to society, men don't cry, right? Mm-hmm. And so here, this bottled up emotion in this young boy living with his mama turns into drugs, using drugs to overcome that depression and get rid of it, alcohol, and or selling drugs and in the streets, where in my case, it was a little different. I came and was in the streets at an early age after my father had passed, and I discovered the programs that was placed there through television and through certain movies that I was watching that was programming my subconscious mind. So basically, every man wants to feel asserted. So I say this, and here's the thing. I ask everyone, are you doing your best? Is there any room for improvement? If it is, then you have no excuse. If you tell me that your back is up against the wall and you have no other excuse, then boom, I get that. But everyone has an opportunity out here. And I tell young brothers, as I explain how I started my business by standing on the corner selling incense. And when I told a young brother that, he said, wow, what do other people think of me if I'm standing on the corner selling incense? And that directly goes to the ego that you need to remove, because it's really about your survival. So basically, being able to assert yourself is important, and find your way as a man, not connected to having a woman, not connected to what a woman can bring to your table. It's what you can bring to your own table. Because I tell young men this: if you ain't got a job, you have no business having sex, period. You have no business having sex without a condom. You're going to produce something you can't take care of. But it's hard to tell a young man that, because he believes that sex is his world, right? So basically, to understand this concept, it's on so many different levels. So what I basically tell young men is to get busy, get out here and learn something. We just had a show talking about crypto. There's an abundance of wealth making a transfer of change right now. And there are people that are not going to get it. There are people that are not going to eat right. Just not. And there are people not going to turn off their television. They're not. And there's a people that are not going to give up that European religion, right? And so those three concepts is the main concept that keep us in this condition. And until we look at that, until we look at those conditions, and then we'll continue to kill each other and die off as a people and won't even know why, because we're really not addressing where these issues coming from.
Absolutely.
All right, folks, man, y'all heard it right here. Lots of nuggets right here on the Tipping Point Morning Show. Please share. I apologize for not being able to see some of these other comments, but we will get to those comments, and we will continue to engage the conversation. Maybe even, in fact, John and I, and even if Miss Moore is available, can jump on during the week and engage some of those conversations. We'll see, and we'll figure it out. But just remember, we are doing a part 3 next Saturday as well. And Miss Moore would love to have you in conjunction with any other specialists that we have on as well. So with that being said, folks, it has been yet again another episode of the Tipping Point Morning Show right here. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week, unless you see us sooner.
Thank you, Ms. Moore, for coming on with us and rocking with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. All right. Peace, y'all. Remember, thetippingpointshow.com. We out.
Habibi Trading Company, home of soap, sticks, and Saya Baba products. Over 400 locations at a store near you. Cincinnati, Ohio, Louisville, and Lexington, Kentucky, Southern Indiana, or find yours online at sayababa.com. Again, that's sayababa.com. Habibi Trading Company, where you can find fragrances to incite your senses.
Hey folks, check out healthdaddywow.net. 100% plant-based herbs and supplements. Whether you're in person or online, use the word tipping for 10% off. Remember, feel better, look great, healthdaddywow.net. Remember, healthdaddywow.net.
Yeah, so